Hi, everyone. Judge Andrew Napolitano here for Judging Freedom. Today is Thursday, August 22nd, 2024. Our guest today is Chris Ruddy, the founder, chief executive officer, and chair of Newsmax. How do you get a message out today in the very, very crowded digital world? But first, this. A divisive presidential election is upon us, and the winner is gold. Let me tell you what I mean. Since 2016, our national debt has grown a staggering 70%, and gold has increased by 60%. Do you own gold? I do. I bought my gold in February 2023, and it has risen 33%. You've heard me talk about Lear Capital, the company I trust. Let me tell you why. Recently, Kevin DeMerit, who is the founder and CEO of Lear, assisted the FBI in discovering a nationwide gold theft ring. And because of Kevin's good work, the FBI caught these people before they could steal anymore. That's why I have been saying the people at Lear are good people. They believe in America. They believe in their product, and they're honest to the core. So take action right now, my friends. Call 800-511-4620 or go to LearJudgeNap.com. Protect your savings and retirement before it's too late. 800-511-4620, LearJudgeNap.com. Remember, hope is not a strategy, but gold is. Chris Ruddy, my dear friend, and my boss at Newsmax, welcome here. Welcome to Judging Freedom. Tell us how you started Newsmax and how it grew to the giant that it is today.
Judge, it's an honor to be on with you. I'm flattered that you'd have me on your show. And I know you're making huge waves. And then you talked about digital media earlier. You have been a huge, huge player on that. And it's nice to see that the power of one is still pretty powerful.
Thank you, Chris.
I started Newsmax. Well, I was a journalist. I had started at the New York Post. I worked for the Pittsburgh Tribune Review, covered the Clinton White House. And I thought, wow, we really need to have more digital media, fairer media, more honest media, more balanced. I remember in the 90s, Judge, that there was a survey of the Clinton White House, and it found out that 89% of the White House had voted for Bill Clinton. I thought to myself, how is this representative of the United States? Bill Clinton, the first election, I think only got 42% of the vote or something. Right. It wasn't a majority, and yet the overwhelmingly. So these folks are unrepresentative, and if it was bad then, it's really bad now. I mean, I think you'd end your career if you announced that you were working, that you voted for Donald Trump. And I think it's a danger to democracy. They all talk about these dangers to democracy. If you don't have a free press, you don't have free speech, and you don't have people advocating diverse views, real diversity, you're in trouble. And so I started Newsmax, and it's been a big success ever since, I think.
Well, you started it was a newsletter, and then it was a magazine, a very attractive magazine. Now, my colleagues and I, many of whom I worked with happily at Fox and now work with happily at Newsmax, are in 100 million households. How did you do that?
Yeah, it's a huge, well, we're an overnight success story. It's 25 years. So it was a long process. I always give a lot of credit to the viewers, the people that go to the users, the viewers, the watchers. Newsmax started as a website, newsmax.com. That still is extremely popular. 7 million people tuned in last month to that. Then we started the cable news channel in 2012. And I thought, Fox was changing. Why is it we only have one cable news channel in America that leans center-right, offers different views? And I thought, let's start Newsmax. And people said, you're crazy. And that has become the number 4 cable news channel in the United States. We're very close to CNN's ratings. What's really interesting is Reuters did a study of all the global media in June, and they found that there's 12 top news brands in America that everybody's tuning to. Right. And Newsmax was one of them, which is, we're the only one on the list that wasn't like ABC, CBS, and the only one that was new media, that relatively new. So, and we don't have billions of dollars behind us. It's just your viewers and listeners, and we say we're reaching about 40 million people are tuning into Newsmax or our websites and other media regularly. And
How
that's huge.
how do you account? I like to think I was part of this, but I'll let you be the judge, boss. How do you account for the significant movement of viewership? I mean, significant, seven figures from Fox, where, as you know, I worked for 24 years back in the days when you were at the New York Post, to Newsmax.
I think there's a whole bunch of reasons, including people just tired of Fox, but also, I think the old Fox under Roger Ailes actually was more balanced. They used to say fair and balanced. They've dropped that, so there's less excitement in the news. I think they're missing where their audience is going. President Trump has criticized them. I think some of his criticisms are a little personal, but some of them are right on target. I'll give an example. I was with him about 2 weeks ago, and I went up to his office in Mar-a-Lago, and he says to me, "Did you just see this Fox poll, the Marquette poll? It says we're 6 points. I'm 6 points behind." And I said, "Yeah, I saw it." I said, "And I did hear that Fox is promoting it all day long." He said, "I'm they're forgetting about the CNBC poll that's out that has me 2 points ahead, and the Rasmussen poll that has me 5 points ahead that are just out today too." And I said, "Well, welcome to the new Fox. If Newsmax, we would cover all the polls.
Does
We would
he?
have."
Do you think that the former president, thinks that Fox is doing that to create a false impression that Vice President Harris is ahead of him because they want him to lose?
I think it seems like propaganda a bit when you don't share the polls that are showing the other. They talk about push polls. Well, there's poll results, right? And if you Americans tend to, it's a thing in marketing. People like to go with the most popular choice. They don't like to think they're alone. There's a lot of independent voters out there. They like to sort of maybe go with where they think the majority is going. So it does. I think it does possibly have some influence. He certainly thinks it does.
Right, right. Where do you see digital media going? I mean, Roger Ailes used to say to me, the cord cutters are never going to cut the cord. There's always going to be cable television. I don't know. Do you think pretty soon everything is going to be on our mobile devices, Chris?
Well, it already is in a way, isn't it? I mean, even cable TV or people watching TV on their phones. But I still think cable has a shelf life. Maybe it's another 10 plus years, as
Right.
long as it has live news and live sports and it's unique content like ESPN and Newsmax and Fox. As long as we're on there, people will still pay for it. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's declining. There's about 70 million people. It used to be over 100 million. And may go down to 50 million, still be a pretty important marketplace. Newsmax's approach is to be on all the platforms. That's always been our approach. So we're on cable. We're the fourth highest there. We're on all major cable systems. We're on the streaming, Roku, Samsung, all of those devices, YouTube on the free side. And then we're on all the apps. And then we have a website, a magazine. So Newsmax is very, more than most companies, we were ahead of the curve, I would say, on that. And I think we're going to continue to be.
Chris, if I or anybody watching now wanted to invest in Newsmax, people who see our numbers getting better and better, is now the time to do it? And if so, how would they do it?
Well, it's a good question. It plays into some news that we had this summer, which is that Newsmax is going public, and they were planning to go public later this year, early next year in an IPO. That has to be approved by the SEC, obviously. We hope to get that. And what's really exciting is we announced it. It got picked up pretty favorable press, even the Wall Street Journal, that we were going public. You look at the success of President Trump's public offering. He did 4 million a year, and the company's worth $4 billion in market cap. It's amazing, right? That shows to me. It doesn't mean that'll apply to Newsmax. We'll do 180 million in revenue this year, but what it shows to me is there's tremendous interest in companies like Newsmax that are fighting the liberal tide, giving people fair news. And President Trump, I think, was a pathfinder. I think we'll follow in that, hopefully. And then one of the great things is we are also there. people can actually buy early shares, what they call preferred shares, if they're eligible, before the IPO. And we have a website set up. It's called newsmaxinvest.com. Newsmaxinvest.com. They get all the information from our investment banker, and how they'll learn about the IPO. They can sign up for information about that, but they could actually, if they're eligible, buy shares now, even with a credit card, which is pretty amazing. And the eligibility rules are not set by us, they're set by the SEC. So don't be upset if you can't. But a lot of people, we've had over 40,000 people go on newsmaxinvest.com, say they want to join with us in one way or another. And we're working through that process.
Now, in doing a little research on Christopher Ruddy, I came across a terrific lecture speech that you gave on March 2nd, 2016 at Liberty University. We're going to play a little clip. This is vintage, classic, since I've known you for 15 or 20 years. I think I can say this, Chris Ruddy.
The mission is actually not to give people the whole truth, and this might surprise you. Nobody has the whole truth. Well, God does. God is the truth. But we all fall short. Our job is to give as much of the facts so that people can find the truth themselves and seek the truth. Winston Churchill famously said that if you don't look the facts in the face, they have a way of stabbing you in the back.
I thought that was beautiful, Chris.
Well, I thought you said I was beautiful. That's what I want to hear. That's a handsome. You're gonna have to call if you want me on this show, call my agent in Hollywood. I always joke with John Voight, who's been on Newsmax, and I'm like, John, I just don't have the time to be the leading man in your next movie. I'm sorry, I just don't have the time to do it. But talk to my agent.
Talk to me about the future, radio, podcasts, simulcasts, some of that stuff which you're doing now on N2. I think some of our people simulcast their radio shows. Am I right?
We have some folks, Chris Salcedo's show,
Right.
For instance, and
Right.
David Harris Jr., who's a phenomenon. He does an 8 o'clock show. Rick Leventhal, Ed Henry was very famous at Fox News, is on Newsmax 2. So 2 is the streaming channel, because we're a regular cable channel. We can't offer the regular channel free anymore. So we offer Newsmax 2, and we had 40 million viewers tune into Newsmax 2 in July, which is like just off the charts.
So I made a list of all my former Fox colleagues that are now stars on Newsmax and N2. Bob Sellers, Jen Pellegrino, Rick Leventhal, Ed Henry, Greta Van Susteren, Greg Kelly, Rob Schmidt, and to a lesser extent, yours truly.
Well, and you're still a star. I was just out with one of our producers for lunch, and he was saying, the great thing about the Judge is he's always got interesting things to say. He says it with a sense of humor and interest. And you were, the famous story is you were Judge in New Jersey, and Roger Ailes saw you on a press conference and said, that guy knows television, bring him on.
I used a funny one-liner that Ailes loved when one of the reporters said to me, why are you resigning from the bench? You're the youngest judge in state history. And I said, you know what? I can live on $100,000 a year. I don't want to die on it. Oh, Ailes thought that was hilarious. And the rest for my TV career is history.
But you speak the truth, and it's important. You don't always agree with your audience, which I also think is really important. People should have a diversity of views and opinions. And I've known you for years. You've been on Newsmax. I'll never say to you, we need you to have this opinion or that opinion.
You've never done that. You know that I am a libertarian. You have called yourself a libertarian. You probably believe, as I do, that government is best which governs least. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Well, less government is definitely better. I think that in heaven we're all libertarians. I'm not sure it applies completely in this existence. If that form of perfect government can exist. But I tend to veer more on the libertarian viewpoint on things. But I'll tell you, sometimes it gets a little vexing. I'm hearing we have our TV in Manhattan. You smell the marijuana all over the place in
Oh,
the streets.
yes. It
Now, I,
stinks. It's
I
terrible.
personally have no problem if somebody wants to smoke. I have no. Uh, I'm not sure government should be
Same
getting
here.
involved in cigarette smoking or any of this stuff. But to be just all over the place, I just think there's some dangers in it, and there should be appropriate behavior that everybody doesn't have to smell it as they're walking down the street. But there's things like that. I'm not for big government. I'm for lesser government, and freedom is why we're all here, and why America is such a great nation. Reagan was a libertarian, and he
Yes.
understood the importance of the
Yes.
nanny state was not a good thing.
Your and my late friend Bill Rusher used to say Reagan was a Western libertarian. Unfortunately, he surrounded himself in the White House with people who weren't, but in his heart, he truly was. Rusher said that to me several times. Chris, I've enjoyed this, and I hope you'll come back and visit with us again.
Well, always glad to be on with you, and we love you, your audience. If they want to learn more about joining with Newsmax in our pre-IPO and our planned IPO, just go to newsmaxinvest.com and you can get all the information there.
Thank you, Chris. All the best to you.
Thank you, Judge.